Crow, the leader of the guild, Nightmare, reads a newspaper about his guild's recent exploits, though most are directed toward the cuteness and attractiveness of his various guild members. He lets out a long, exasperated sigh, which his maid, Fel, notices. She asks him if anything is bothering him and offers to hear him out. Crow asks her hypothetically what she would do if he were to hypothetically leave the guild. Fel thinks about this for a moment, and she says, without a hint of hesitation, that she'd die. Crow frantically asks her not to, but Fel insists that her life belongs to him and him alone. If he were to leave, then it is only natural for her to die. Yuma, the smallest yet most powerful member of Nightmare, tugs at his shirt, saddened to hear that he plans to leave. Crow reassures her that it's all a hypothetical scenario, but even so, Yuma hates to hear it. She absolutely doesn't want him to leave, and she starts crushing his ribs with a vicious bear hug. That's what love feels like. Crow apologizes for bringing up leaving, and Yuma makes him promise not to say anything about leaving again. She'd hate for him to get into an unfortunate accident. Crow decides to just leave it at that for now. Maybe in the future, he can bring up leaving without anyone threatening to kill him or their own selves. He reassures everyone that what he was saying was just a joke and nothing more. Now that all 10 of them are here, he asks Lulu to begin the meeting. Lulu stands up and gets it started. Today's agenda is about a certain dungeon quest. Lofia knows that this dungeon quest is about the rumored goblin nest, which Alnaria hates. Garga has no interest in taking on goblins either, firmly believing that such small fry are below his station. However, when Lulu reports that the goblins are rumored to have hoarded a considerable number of valuable items, Crow volunteers to do it himself. Lulu asks for any volunteers to partner up with Crow, and everyone, including those who felt that flushing out a goblin nest was beneath them, raises their hands. Crow is quite sure that he can handle a bunch of goblins alone, so he wonders if everyone is needlessly worried about him. Horace, who shares the rank 8 spot with Garga, volunteers his services. Crow tries to turn him down, and Garga steps in to assert that he is the more worthy choice to go with their master. Horace scoffs, believing that Crow wants to be with him and nobody else. The two begin bitterly fighting over who has the right to accompany Crow, when suddenly, they seem to spontaneously combust, and their charred husks fall to the ground. Crow thanks Ali, the 6th seed of Nightmare, for stopping them before things got way out of hand. He starts patting her on the head as a reward for her good work, which causes every other girl to become incredibly jealous to the point of murderous intent. Ali says that she will become Crow's wife in the future, but he says that such a thing might be difficult for her. However, Ali is willing to take on all the responsibilities and burdens of being his wife, which also means handling all his more intimate desires. For some reason, Crow doesn't oppose this point more strongly. I wonder why. Lofia raises her hand and also volunteers for the position, but not as Ali's companion for the Goblin Nest quest, but as his wife. She thinks she'd be a far better fit for the position than Ali. At this point, Lulu has snapped so many pencils that they might end up going through their whole stock. Lofia doesn't mind being a mistress at all, but Crow would rather not engage in any illicit affairs. Lofia reassures him that this world is fine with polygamous relationships, which somewhat piques Crow's interest. Lulu slams her hand on the table to strongly oppose any immoral relationships. She nearly hurls after seeing just how depraved Crow is to entertain such ideas. Crow reassures her that he won't. Crow is asked to leave the room while the guys and girls conduct a thorough and somewhat violent selection process to see who has the honor of going with him. Crow exits through the door and slumps against the wall. Rank 10 Crow really wants to quit this guild. Even though he is the leader, he is the weakest of the entire Nightmare Guild, and he feels undeserving of all the praise and attention that gets thrown his way. He is unable to use the cheat skill that the goddess gave him when he reincarnated into this world, but the real reason he wants to quit the guild is because he is actually average looking. He has such a complex about it that he uses a mask to hide it. Not even his fellow members know his true appearance, and why would he let them know? In a guild filled with attractive and beautiful people, he'd be sorely out of place. He has neither the talent, the confidence, nor the charisma to lead a guild, and he wonders if he is truly fit for that role. He hears a knock on the door, and he hastily dons his mask again. Alma enters the room and reveals that she was chosen to accompany him to the Goblin Nest. Crow's reaction is rather lukewarm. He was worried over nothing. Alma thinks he's rude for thinking that, but rather Crow is just more comfortable around her than anyone else in the guild. Alma asks if this means she's special to him, and Crow decides to just go along with that explanation. As friends of the same age, of course, Crow doesn't know that he just drove a massive stake through Alma's heart. Crow heads downstairs and notices the rank 5 Lafia sitting alone on a table. He asks Alma if she'd be the only one accompanying her today, which doesn't bode well for her. he approaches Lufia and startles her. She apologized for how his sister acted earlier, but he doesn't seem to mind. He asks her if she'd like to join him on the Goblin Dungeon quest, which absolutely ruins Alma's dream of a dungeon date with him. He had noticed Lufia raising her hand earlier, but she wasn't really able to assert herself much. After all, Lufia is also an important person to him as a person of the same age. They haven't even left on the quest yet, and Crow has already killed 2 people. Lufia starts beating herself up for assuming that Crow had more romantic intentions, while Alma's rage bubbles up, probably causing a tumor. Crow seems disappointed that she doesn't want to come at all, but it's quite the opposite. Lufia will gladly come along with him. Now that their party is well and truly finalized, they head off into the Goblin Dungeon. The moment they leave, the entire house falls silent. Yuma mutters to herself about Crow leaving the guild, which distresses the others. Ollie reassures Yuma that she doesn't have to worry about that since she'll end up marrying Crow after all. When that time comes, she'll gladly adopt Yuma as a daughter. Somehow, Lulu senses that this won't actually happen, but at least Yuma has stopped talking about it. Fel is glad that Crow seems to be oblivious to all the affection thrown his way, though she wonders if that's a good thing. With a smile, Lufia sweetly reminds Ali that if she continues to talk about marrying Crow, she's going to get mad. Horace briefly becomes a jokester and asks Lufia to refrain from leading Crow down a path of degeneracy and decency. It can't be helped, and as Lufia points out, the entire guild seems to be in love with Crow. Garga can't quite understand why it's a bad thing that everyone loves Crow, but his head is so filled with muscle that he doesn't understand the nuance of the situation. Regardless, Lulu reminds everyone again that Crow was just joking about leaving, and as the co-leader, she doesn't want this matter to get out of hand any further. Still, Lulu can't help but be bothered by the situation. Even though they all clearly love Crow so much, she doesn't understand why he doesn't notice their feelings. That's because he's the main character, sweetie. In a flashback, Lulu was left out on the streets after her entire family was murdered. Since she was an affluent noble, many thought she and her family deserved it. It was Crow who led her out of those dark times and gave her hope, and he has done the same with 9 other people. Every single member of Nightmare, in one way or another, was shunned and abandoned by the world, and Nightmare is their home. That's why not a single one of them will ever let him go, no matter what. If they can't have him, nobody can. Crow, Lufia, and Alma enter the dungeon, which a tribe of goblins have turned into their nesting grounds. Alma steps forward, and like a vicious storm, she rips through the goblins' ranks with ease. Face the full, unbridled fury of Alma. Not one of them will survive. Crow points out that 2 goblins got away while she was monologuing to herself. Fortunately, Lufia is there to pick up the slack, and she mercilessly skewers the 2 stragglers. Leave the cleanup to her. She'll kill trash, garbage, and other disgusting things. Does that make her a sanitation worker? Crow doesn't see anything wrong with what she said, so all he does is thank her for her help. Alma starts to pout. She worked just as hard too, so why isn't she getting any praise? What's wrong with Crow? You're always like that, Crow. She's felt like she's been treated like a second-class character for a while now. Alma demands head pats, and she wants them now. Crow asks her why she's so mentally unstable. Likewise, Lufia would also like 1 extra large serving of head pats, and Crow can't believe that he has to remind them that they're still inside a dungeon. But since they insist, and they might make even more of a fuss if he doesn't, Crow pats their heads. Unfortunately, their little head-patting session is interrupted by a woman's scream. Crow drops everything and runs toward the direction of the scream. Crow stumbles upon a hooded woman who claims that she and her companions are being attacked by goblins. The woman is hysterical, and Crow struggles to calm her down. Crow reassures her that he is an adventurer who came in response to the guild's quest. He promises to escort her back to town, and she is glad to be rescued. She is rescued for a full 4 seconds. Alma lunges forward with her signature move, Gunner. How dare this woman touch Crow and defile him with her dirty hands? Alma is downright terrifying when she's furious, enough to make the boogeyman check his closet for her. Before Alma can finish her off for interrupting her precious time with Crow, Crow tells her to stand down. He's repeatedly told her before not to randomly kill targets. They're adventurers, not murderers. Professionals have standards. Crow apologizes to the woman, explaining that he wanted to purposefully fall for her trap and resolve things peacefully. He holds up a wanted poster of her, revealing that she is Shinoji, the goblin tamer. She leaps away from Alma and downs a potion concealed on her person. Even if she was caught in the act, it doesn't mean that she's lost. She still has an army on her side. Hundreds of disgusting goblin troops surround them. Shinobi threatens to kill them, take their treasure, and use their corpses as fertilizer for goblin feed. Calmly, and without a fuss, Lafia performs her dual sword special Excalibur. No sword lasers here, folks, just a plain storm of blades. Lafia rips through the goblins, cutting down their numbers drastically. Shinogi watches in horror as her vaunted army is eviscerated. Still, Lafia is just a single variable thrown into the mix, and Shinogi has many more goblins to throw at her. Even so, goblins will still be goblins. Alma cuts through them just as easily as she did before. Shinogi can't understand why her strongest pieces were defeated so quickly, and it finally dawns on her. Alma and Lafia's weapons, Gungnir and Excalibur, are the highest ranked equipment in the mythic class. How do ordinary adventurers like them have such strong, pay-to-win items? Crow nonchalantly says that he created them. Create is the special skill bestowed upon him by the goddess when he was reincarnated into this world. With the knowledge he has amassed through a wide range of games, manga, and other forms of media, he can craft rare weapons in this world. Shinogi can't hold back her disbelief. His ability is even more broken than her goblin taming ability. Crow encourages her to just give up now. He holds out his hand and uses his create ability to craft another weapon, a simple black sword. That's all it is. Shinogi looks at his weapon more closely, and notices that its aura is weaker than that of Excalibur and Gungnir. Shinogi points at him and claims that she has discovered his weakness. She realizes that even though Crow can craft ultimate mythic class weapons, he doesn't have the ability to wield them himself. Alma and Lafia's reactions tell her that she's right on the money. Shinogi orders her goblins to focus their efforts on Crow and Crow alone. However, contrary to her expectations, Crow cuts them down just as easily as Alma and Lafia did. He admits that compared to Gungnir and Excalibur, his black sword is weak, and his skills are even weaker. But if his only opponents are goblins, then he is more than enough. Frightened, Shinogi orders all her goblins to retreat. However, no more than 6 steps later, Alma and Lafia cut her arms off. She trips onto the ground and cries out in agony. She asks why they're doing this to her, and they can't quite believe they have to spell it out for her. They tell Shinogi that she deserves to die because she was hunting adventurers and, more importantly, because she insulted Crow. They ask Crow for his permission to kill her, but he reminds them again not to kill. They ask if they can do anything as long as it doesn't end up killing her, and he'll allow it. Blood starts splattering all over the cold stone floor, drowning out Shinogi's screams of pain. Alma and Lafia take turns stabbing her in non-lethal areas of her body, all while recounting the great kindness that Crow has shown them. They demand that she give thanks to Crow for everything he's done. Even with so much blood loss, the girls make sure to keep her alive. Alma and Lafia drag Shinogi's body out in a burlap sack, all while happily chatting about how much they enjoyed slowly tormenting her. It was extremely satisfying. Meanwhile, at the very back, Crow worries that the guild has a problem. It's him. He's the problem. He's the only one who was injured during this quest, and he's worried that he's bringing down the guild's image. More importantly, the entire guild is filled with psychopaths. Alma and Lafia extend their arms to urge him to follow them. Now more than ever, Crow really wants to leave the guild. At the Western Frontier Guild House branch, the guildmaster, Zois, is exasperated by yet another incident committed by Crow and his guild. He asks him to think of the people who have to deal with the aftermath. Crow doesn't seem to recall doing anything wrong, and Zois points out that Shinogi is completely traumatized by what happened. The only thing she can say is, "I'm sorry." He scolds Crow for always going so far, and he weakly apologizes for it. It wasn't he who traumatized her after all. He asks if this is the reason why Zois called him here. But before Zois can move on to the main topic, he asks why Fel and Lulu are here too. Lulu replies that she is the vice leader, while Fel says she is the maid. Zois doesn't know what that has to do with anything since all he asked for was Crow, and at this point he's too afraid to ask. He leads them into a room to discuss a private contract. The client, a stuffy, uppity viscount named Rai, is impatiently waiting for them. Zois introduces Crow to Rai, but Crow doesn't really know how high the title of viscount is. Zois explains that Rai controls the county that their guild is currently based in, so he has quite a considerable amount of power and influence. Rai is dismayed that Crow doesn't even know that much, and he doubts that he can be of any help. However, Zois vouches for Crow's ability. Left with no choice, Rai tells him the contract. He asks him to help him find a missing person, but Alma and Lafia almost immediately decline. Crow doesn't know why though. Alma and Lafia are very suspicious of the request. A missing persons case should be under the jurisdiction of the police or the knights, not for their precious Crow to undertake. Furthermore, the closed-door nature of this discussion just smells illegal. Rai is offended that they're being rude to him, and he takes it out on Zois. Zois takes it out on Crow and asks why his subordinates turned down the request before the leader said anything. Crow would like to know that too, and he doesn't understand why he's the one being scolded. Rai points threateningly at them all and says that with a snap of his fingers, he can get them blacklisted from the guild at any time. Crow tries to defuse the situation. After all, it's not like Rai actually has the power to do that. Zoids looks over the papers and explains that all the secrecy is due to the rather problematic location of their investigation. Lulu asks what the destination is, and he replies that their goal is Succubus country, whose national flag is a huge womb tattoo.